Alright, I'm recording this now. Alright, so yeah, can you hear me, Ken?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Alright, by the way, this is Ken Rhodes that's on speakerphone. He just wants to hear this article. Okay, it says, this is from Oregon Live, and it's the wildlife refuge defendant Pete Santilli could be released to halfway house, but it won't happen soon. And this was yesterday, February 29th. And it says U.S. District Judge Anna Brown on Monday ordered Pete Santilli, an independent broadcaster indicted on a federal conspiracy charge in the armed takeover. See how they say that, Ken? Armed takeover?
Right.
On the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge to be released to a regional halfway house with GPS monitoring after undergoing a mental health evaluation. But Santilli isn't likely to get out on the street anytime soon. The 50-year-old also faces a U.S. Marshal's hold on a separate federal conspiracy and weapons indictment in Nevada related to the 2014... Oh, is that your GPS?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Dallas.
Oh, you're good. Let's see, in Nevada related to the 2014 standoff with federal officers outside the Clive and Bundy Ranch. Should the evaluation show that Santilli is a candidate for release to the halfway house, he'd likely be transferred to a jail in Las Vegas, where he'd have to argue for release all over again before a federal judge in Nevada. His court-appointed attorney, Thomas Cohn, said he would hope a federal judge in Nevada would follow the actions of Brown and allow for Santilli's release to the halfway house, but that process could take some time. Federal prosecutors pointed out that the Nevada indictment against Santilli contains more serious charges, including an allegation that he possessed a firearm in the course of a crime of violence. Brown was the third federal judge in Oregon that Santilli has appeared before to argue for his release pending trial. He appealed to Brown after the other two denied his request. Santilli is one of 25 people indicted on a federal conspiracy charge stemming from the 41-day occupation of the refuge outside of Burns that ended February 11th. He was arrested January 26th and was pleaded not guilty to the charge. Brown heard about 45 minutes of oral argument, then returned to her chambers for about 15 minutes before she came back to the courtroom to issue her ruling. During that brief break, Santilli, seated beside his defense lawyer, swiveled toward a deputy marshal and made a coin toss gesture with his hands, drawing a smirk from the federal officer. When Brown returned to court, she initially said she backed the decision of the two other judges and agreed that no combination of conditions existed that would ensure Santilli would return to court and not be a danger to the community. But Brown left another option open, saying she'd consider if Santilli was willing to have a mental health evaluation done as recommended by a pretrial services officer. At that, Santilli's lawyer stood and sought to clarify his client's position. Santilli doesn't want a mental health evaluation, Cohn explained, but if he were to be required to participate in one, he would do so. Cohn had argued earlier that the only mental health concerns raised were by Santilli's estranged parents. Hearing that, Brown quickly reversed her initial decision and ordered Santilli's release to the Northwest Regional Reentry Center in Portland with GPS monitoring following the evaluation. In the event Nevada releases its hold, it can be implemented, Brown ruled. Prosecutors contend Santilli used his online shows to issue a call to action to encourage more people to participate in the refuge takeover. His lawyer has argued that Santilli was simply documenting a developing story. Cohn has described Santilli as an entertainer or new journalist who puts out a lot of bravado and has been a thorn to the federal government. On Monday, Cohn urged Brown to consider his client's actions, not his words. Cohn said Santilli's conduct counters his hyperbolic, inflammatory language from his broadcasts. He submitted 2 videos from the 2014 Bundy Ranch standoff describing Santilli as a peacemaker who tried to calm an irate protester and urged others to comply with federal orders. He argued that Santilli has followed local, state, and federal law enforcement orders from the time he was pulled over during a traffic stop in Newtown, Ohio on December 15th, when his lawyer said that for some reason Santilli was listed on the Federal Terror Alert Watch and found traveling with a firearm to his January 26 arrest in Burns. Cohn said Santilli never received notice that his rallying calls were considered unlawful. To continue to hold Santilli would violate his due process rights, he said. If convicted of the federal conspiracy charge, Santilli would at most face 12 to 15 months in prison because of only one prior misdemeanor conviction, Cohn said. Cohn had sought the third review, arguing there was new information, including the recent removal of all of Santilli's firearms from the Ohio apartment he shared with his girlfriend, a recent FBI search of his rental car that found no firearms, and his exemplary conduct in custody so far. Assistant U.S. Attorney Ethan Knight countered that there was no new information in the case except the new February 17th federal indictment returned against Santilli and others out of Nevada. The indictment indicates Santilli engaged in a pattern of dangerous behavior marked by repeated refusals. I don't know what this is. To the orders of the federal law enforcement officers, Knight wrote in a court filing Monday. While the charges are simply allegations, they do belly defendant's characterization of his conduct at the Bundy Ranch and further undermine his repeated suggestion that he is being prosecuted for exercising his constitutionally protected First Amendment rights, Knight wrote. Knight argued that the videos Cohn submitted to the court from Santilli's broadcast in 2014 didn't capture the full scope of Santilli's activity there. After Brown made her final ruling, Santilli grabbed hold of a legal accordion folder of papers and blew a kiss to his girlfriend and business partner Deborah Jordan before he was led back to custody. That was from Oregon Live.
Yeah, that was all right. But the one thing they left out there, I think she said if they find him, if there's anything wrong with him, but don't put this out, Dallas.
All right, hang on. Let me finish this up real quick. Did you have anything you want to comment to that before you and me talk?
No, me and Michelle Brown both are up here, so.
Oh, okay.
We were both in the courtroom yesterday.
Oh, okay, cool.
You know, I will say that they're trying to railroad him. How come nobody else that got arrested or got released had to have a mental evaluation? You know, and I don't understand. Nobody else, none of them. I think there's been 4 or 5, maybe even more, have been released. They didn't require a mental evaluation on any of them.
Oh, hey,
that shows that they're prejudiced against him, and being he's the one that's got the voice and putting it out there on his radio show, they want to shut him up, and that's exactly the way it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just, when you read this, when it says Santilli would at most face 12 to 15 months, okay, 12 to 15 months, that's a long time.
Yeah, but it'd be probation. But they're trying to they know they got a weak case on Pete. So they're trying to keep him in there to make sure he does at least 12 to 15 months, and then he gets probation. See, they're happy. They just want to make sure he does some jail time to shut him up. They want to shut his show down.
Wow. Well, real quick, also, and I'll stop this. A couple people were asking, do you know anything about like David Fry, Sandy, Sean, or Jeff? Has anyone brought any of them up?
No, they were all in court last week when I went to court. There's quite a few of them.
Okay, so they're just waiting like everyone else then.
Right.
Okay.
Now Michelle Brown's with me. Let me ask her if she won't say anything. You won't say anything?
No, you summed it up really good.
She said I summed it up really good. So.
All right, Ken. Well, I appreciate it. And
here.
You know, I do want to say that what Pete's attorney argued that at the most this is like a 12 to 15 month term in jail, which for a first-time offender, that's probation. They end up not doing that time because first-time offense, 12 months, they give them probation. But instead of giving him probation, like you said, there comes a mental evaluation, and I don't know. They even mention medication, and so that's scary.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. I mean, because I was reading too. Actually, Ken sent me an article over from David Hodges. About these mental evaluations for getting the guns. They're going to try to use that. So I guess the biggest question is when it says about Pete going to get a mental evaluation, are they going to drug him up?
Well, they said, when they said that if medication was suggested, he would have to do that.
Oh, wow.
That was my understanding.
See,
He would have to comply with the judges or the court, or I guess the mental health advisor recommendation. And so, yes, Dallas, you're absolutely right.
Well, did you see this too, real quick? That I remember Pete talked about this also, and where it says in here that the only people that were bringing it up was his parents, who he hasn't talked to in quite some time, for this reason right here.
Right. Yeah, that was brought up, and the judge said she took it into consideration. But, listening to Pete's attorney yesterday, he had all these points, and all of the points covered. So I don't understand when the judge came back and said what she said, because from the way Pete's attorney covered everything, in my opinion, he should have walked out of there on probation yesterday, or at least to the halfway house.
Right. Yeah, he wasn't even armed, and a lot of people were upset too about Mark McConnell. I don't really even want to get into him, but that was one thing people were frustrated with about that, was how he was armed, and then he's out walking around right now.
Exactly.
And Pete wasn't armed.
Mark McConnell, as far as I'm concerned, was working with them.
Yeah.
He led the people into an ambush. I'll tell you that right now. And what he don't realize, had that ambush worked for him the way I think they had it planned, I think they planned on killing everybody. And Mark McConnell, he can thank his lucky stars, because if they'd have done that, they wouldn't have left him around. He would have been taken out. They don't, when they use somebody in a drill, as they call it, and the one person always ends up getting killed. Well, Mark McConnell would have been that person, because they wouldn't leave them loose ends out there for him to ever come back and tell on them.
Right.
So he's a lucky man that he's actually alive today.
Yeah, I think he even said that himself.
Well, yeah, but he knew what he was doing. When I talked to him after that happened, he called us pussy patriots and said that we don't know what an ambush is. An ambush is when you drive in, everybody gets killed, blah, 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 and Finicum come running out with his hands up there charging him. He said, that's aggressive. And he said, I'm not an FBI, but if somebody comes running me aggressive, I'm going to shoot him. I said, Mark, you tell me you'd shoot somebody with their hands in the air?
Oh, wow.
So he more or less told me he got what he deserved, which I find very troubling for somebody that. Now, I heard he used to be a policeman in New York. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I've heard that, so somebody could check that out, that hears this and find out. But obviously they had something on him to get him to do what he did.
Right. All right, Ken, so you guys are heading back. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
No, that'll be it, Dallas.
Okay. All right, guys, don't forget to help Pete and Deb out. Go to thePeteSantilliShow.com/donate, and I'll keep you guys updated. Hang on one second, Ken.